helping keep modern Manx history alive.
Mr. Couch, can you give us sort of the highlights as far as you're concerned of what has come out of today's budget?
I think one of the key points that is massively important economically is the decision on the attribution regime for individuals, which is commonly known as the ARI, and the government's decided to abolish that.
And why have they done that?
Well, this is one of the components of our tax system that's been under review by what's known as the European Union Code of Conduct Group. And there have been quite a lot of ins and outs over the last several months. But we're now firmly of the view that the Code of Conduct Group will say that there are harmful effects when ARI is considered with the 0-10 regime. And so the government's decided to make an early move before the formal harmful finding from the group is given, and decide to move away from that particular system.
So preactive to something that might happen?
Yes, I think that's a fair comment, but I think it's fairly clear to us that from all the evidence we have that there was a preliminary review done and decision in November of last year by the Code Group, and we're fairly sure that that will be confirmed fairly soon.
Will this protect us? Will you now find other people making ways to save themselves paying Manx tax?
Well, the attribution regime for individuals was there for a reason, and that was if you have 0% companies. The government had always taken the view, when 0-10 was first announced in 2002, that there would be a risk that people would, what we would call, incorporate their investments, and we might never see tax. So the system was designed to encourage, if you will, tax to be paid, and you'd expect that from me as a tax administrator. What we'll need to do is use a different piece of legislation to encourage the same behaviour. Now, the Minister hasn't announced it in her budget the exact details of that, because we're going to need to do some more liaison with the private sector and with the community generally to work out how those rules will be. But we're fairly sure that there's no risk to the revenue by using an alternative mechanism. We have law in place that we can use in any case, and it's just be a case now of crossing the T's and dotting the I's on that.
So, I mean, the headline here really is that 0-10 is staying on, because there's obviously a lot of concern from some finance people over here that if that went, they would go as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the basis that all that we know, and as you'd imagine that the government tries to be strategic and gather as much information as possible, if we go back to 2003, the Code of Conduct Group I was mentioning just now said that 0-10 regimes were not harmful within the meaning of the Code of Conduct. That was agreed with by the Council of Finance Ministers, which is known as ECOFIN. So in 2003, 0-10 as a system was said not to be harmful. So on the basis that we can see that the combination of the attribution regime with 0-10, they think there is an issue, you're correct that if you take away ARI, then you're left with something that was said not to be harmful. So on the basis of all that we know, this is an appropriate move to make, and we're not making any changes to 0-10.
Because our nearest competitors in the field, of course, I mean, I'm thinking about the Channel Islands here. Guernsey seems to have really given up on it from all accounts. Jersey's certainly wobbling, to say the least, about it.
Well, it's not for me to talk for other governments. Each of the three Crown dependencies had a similar 0-10 system, and it's hard to tell at this point which way each of us will go. But I mean, you've just had a detailed explanation of the Isle of Man's position.